All right, cool. So we're gonna go ahead and get it started. So for those who don't know, I'm Christy from Save Our Families. I'm here to really just try to make some change within our community. We have to really focus on bringing the word unity back. So that's my biggest goal by reaching out and offering things like the public therapy session, so we can all try to come together and really bridge the gap that seems to just continue going forever. So Robin is actually my personal therapist, and she was gracious enough to come on and join us and assist us tonight with offering some advice on how to get through these turbulent times. Since March, we've really been on a roller coaster. It's like we're playing Jumanji every day. Something new happens. So hopefully we can offer some great advice and really open the bridge to communication with each other. So, Robin, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we can move on to the other lovely ladies. Oh, where'd she go?
Oh, did we lose her?
I can't.
Right.
I can't hear her.
Yeah, her camera. I don't see her either.
Right. Well, she might have.
Okay. I just want to make sure it wasn't me this time.
No, we lost her. So,
Okay.
Cream, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
You want me to go first? Okay.
Hey, I went first. I went first.
Okay. Well, you did. Okay. Okay. Hi, guys. My name is Cream, also known as Miss Cream of the Crop. No one calls me Antoinette, even though that is my name. But I don't. What do you want me to tell them, Christy? I don't like talking about myself. What do you want me to
Just,
say?
hey, just let them know what you do. That's all. Just tell the people who you are.
Um, I call myself a multifaceted entrepreneur because I do so many things. I own a radio station, so my focus is on media marketing and PR. Um, I'm a creative. I do a lot of creative things, creative direction. I help people brand themselves. Um, and I'm also someone that's very outspoken about issues in our community, issues that's dealing with Black women, Black men, and the LGBTQ plus community. Um, I don't consider myself an activist. I just consider myself a regular person that is concerned about other human beings, especially those that look just like me. So,
All
was
right.
that good?
Yeah. Perfect. All right,
Okay.
Tatiana, let them know what you do and who you are.
Okay, hey guys, I'm Tatiana. Um, I in this area. This isn't something that I specialize. Actually, this is something that Christy specializes in, and she happens to have taught me quite a bit, and kind of given me a platform in order to tap into my own Blackness and understand the need for this kind of thing. So this has kind of been a journey for me over the last couple years, understanding the need for this, understanding how I can help, understanding the things I can do to facilitate change in this area. And that's really why I'm here. This is close to my heart, raising 3 Black children, being a Black woman in America, helping and making change is just something I want to do. So I am thankful to be here and to have this opportunity and share this with you guys.
All right,
Awesome.
so last but not least, Robin, please go ahead and let them know why you are here and what it is that you do.
Is she
We
back
can't hear
yet?
you. We can't hear
Yeah.
you. You're on mute. Unmute your mic. Here we go. Let's see. Can I do it?
Are you able to unmute her for her?
No, it says I don't have that kind of control over the world.
Well, they should give you that at least for your broadcast.
Right.
You know, I know. I can mute people. I just
Ah,
can't unmute them.
Okay,
There
oh,
we go.
how's
okay.
that?
Yes.
Oh, you're
Perfect.
Okay,
back.
I'm new to this platform. I'm like, where's the unmute button? It's right in my face. Okay. So what I was saying was I'm working from home and I'm using a hotspot because my normal hotspot is not working. And this one is getting poor reception now too. So if I drop out, I'll join right back in. Um, but I'm Robin Hill. Can you hear me? I'm good?
Yep.
You're
Yes.
good. Yeah.
Okay. Robin Hill, mental health therapist. Um, let's see. I do a plethora of things, but my main moneymaker is being a therapist. I primarily treat depression, anxiety, and trauma, and I work mostly with adults and I do some teens. So I've been at this for 15 years or so or more. And that's my passion to heal souls and to help people actualize their goals.
And she's great at it, y'all, because when I started with her, I was just a mess. That's how we made it here. This is literally 3 years in the making. I was a hot mess. I went and seen Robin about a year ago just for 2 sessions, and then I ran away because she made me pull the boxes out of the closet, and I was like, I don't want to do all this. So I fell back into a really ugly depression, and I decided, I had to dig my way out of it, and I took myself to therapy. And
Mhm.
I think it was just on Thursday we had our 10th session, and it's been great.
Good, good.
So we're gonna hop into it. Me personally, I've got a lot
Well,
of
I'm proud of
anxiety.
you for going to counseling. So
Thank yeah,
that's
yeah.
a
Me
big
and you,
step.
we've had some talks. You know
Yeah.
the old me. So
I'm
I
proud of
mean,
you.
I mean the truth's gonna come out eventually about the crazy I did back in the day. So really, I want the world to know and the youth to know I really am relatable to all the situations you're going through. Because getting to where I've gotten, it's taken a million chances and a million people to really have faith in me and give me an opportunity. And that's why I want to give everybody else an opportunity by any means necessary, is because without y'all, I wouldn't be here today either, including you. You welcomed me into the industry my first week hopping into the music world. So
Yeah.
it's really just about opening up and giving people chances. We do have to stay guarded because not everybody has good intentions, but we still have to give people chances.
Absolutely. So
But
yeah, that's why I said I'm proud of you because hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, but I'm really proud of you because I met you over 15 years ago, like young Christy on the bike, gung ho. I'm ready to take on the world, Christy. And then I saw that Christy go through some things and turn into someone that didn't love herself. And then it turned to her not loving other people or loving other people more than herself. And I there's only so much that your friends and people that care about you can do because I'm not Robin. I didn't go to school for
right,
therapy. Um, and I think it's easier to turn to people that you can trust and that love and care about you because they're closest to you. And therapy until now wasn't something that a lot of people talk about in the Black community. That's why I said I'm very proud of you because I've seen every Christy that there is. And I'm just really proud of you because it just takes a really strong person to admit that they need to go to therapy and actually go to therapy and then leave therapy and admit they need it again and go and actually work through all those traumas and things. And I'm just happy that you were able to find Robin. And I'm just glad that we have Black people in our community that understanding therapy is important enough for them to even go to school for it because we do need Black therapists. So I never met you before, Robin, but thank you for being you.
Nice meeting you too.
That's all I have to say right now.
to the other people who have joined in, you guys are more than welcome to actually join into the conversation. I would love for you guys to be a part of this. It's not just about me, it's about all of us. So my biggest thing is I brought us together because of PTSD. With everything we are seeing on TV, the news, the internet, I know it's triggering the past. We've all been through something. I know I grew up in an all white household, but I still had a gun put in my face at 10 years old while they were looking for my mom. I was snatched out of the bed at 13 and dragged down to the bottom of my house while they were asking me questions with a gun in my face again and a flashlight in my eyes. Like, it's so many times I've really just had to go through these things. So seeing the tanks down the street from my house and the police parked around the corner, it's really just an unnerving feeling to constantly have to see this. So I know everybody else is going through it. I see the internet. I hear y'all. So let me know how y'all feel. Ask Robin, how to deal with something. Let's get a dialogue going.
Don't let me be the only person, guys, because Chrissy knows I'll talk, but I don't
Go,
want to be the
come
only
on.
person to
No,
talk.
that's why I brought you on, because I need people to come on.
Well, I know that Robin deals with trauma with adults, and I'm a mom, and I have teenagers and young adults now. And for me, my kids have always seen me be somewhat of an activist in our community. So this isn't something that's new to them. But I am one of the people that is always talking about people sharing the videos over and over and over again of the deaths of people that look like my children. And as a parent, I talk to them as best as I can about different things that are going on and how things are affecting them. But how can we genuinely have dialogue with their kids to get them to let us know how they are really feeling with all the images that they're seeing right now,
Yeah.
being passed around the internet? And with my children, even though I am all about the blackness, their life hasn't always been like a totally black life. So especially for my youngest son, the majority of his friends don't look like him. So he's having a little bit of a hard time right now because his friends are concerned, but they can only be as concerned as they can be as white kids. So they're coming to him and asking him different questions that he doesn't want to talk to them about. So yeah, as a parent, how can we help our children that are being affected by this? I would say secondhand, just from the internet.
I think, yeah, I had the same issue with my two kids. My kids are teenagers, 13 and 15, and um, they have way more information at their fingertips than I'm in my 40s. I don't know how old everybody else is, but I'm not even as quick. And I'm thinking I know what I'm talking about. My kids are telling me what's happening out there. Um, so it is, they have way more information. And I saw my kids get overwhelmed. My daughter, she talks. My son is not so much a talker. So I have to get him engaged in the conversation. And they come in here, we sit down and they just talk about everything they're seeing, and we talk about the president and talk about all this going on, just because they need a place to vent about it too. We're venting about it. We talk to our friends and stuff. They need to talk about it, and they need to be heard, especially when you're dealing with teenagers, because they do have the ability to abstract think. They do have a reasoning, and we can't keep them like children shut out from everything. Small children, we could send them to their room and they may not know what's going on, but the older children, they know exactly what's going on. They have formed opinions about what's going on, and they need a place to voice those. And then I get a feel, we're all, if we're all mothers, we get that, we can tell when our babies are not right. They're not doing okay. If you just take the time to talk to them. And what I did with mine is I took them on nature walks because they needed to know that they were okay. It wasn't so much, they were worried about me, they were worried about their dad, they were worried about everything that's going on. They're seeing all this stuff that's going on, but yet we're still in quarantine too, right? So they aren't actually out there. So in their minds, all this stuff is going on. So I'm like, nope, we're safe. Let's ride around. Let's see that the world is still in place, just to calm their fears. But when you're dealing with trauma, the main thing that you have to, in the moment, deal with is ensuring safety. So helping them to know that they're safe, that the government's not going to kick in their doors right now. Ensuring the safety as much as you can, because I don't want to invalidate people's experiences that's out there in the streets and they're getting arrested or whatever, but you want them to feel safe. You want them to learn to relax and to unplug and distract. How did that just turn off? Okay.
You're still here, don't
So,
worry.
was I still there?
Yeah,
you still
your computer probably just went to sleep.
Okay. So, yeah, unplug, telling them it's time to take a break from all of this stuff. All that's going to be there later. Take a break and do something else. And so what we did was we used our phones to take pictures of scenery. So they became mini photographers for an hour. And that just took their mind off of everything. And we got slushies and and they were cool. So it is difficult. We have to engage our teenagers. We do, because there is a such thing as vicarious trauma. There is a
Thank
such
you.
thing as vicarious trauma. So that means you
Thank
you
you.
become traumatized by watching these videos.
Yeah. I appreciate that because my kids have therapists. They have their own therapists because we believe in therapy. So all of our kids go to therapy.
Mhm.
But and I know they can talk to their therapist about different things that they're going through. But
Mhm.
I just wanted to make sure that as parents, we were doing our part as well and not just saying, oh, well, wait until you have your session and then you just talk about how you're feeling.
Right.
I wanted us to be
Right.
engaged. I mean, we are engaged, but I just wanted to make sure that we're doing as much as we can possibly do as parents outside of their therapy sessions. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Anybody else
How
would
is
like to join
everyone?
in?
How is everyone doing with this? All the first we was on pandemic lockdown, so everybody who's not an introvert like me was losing their mind. I was fine, but everybody else who wanted to get out were like losing their mind. They're in the house with a bunch of people. They're ready to get out, and so then there's a killing. So on
Yeah.
top of already frustration, this happened, and the country burned. The whole country went on fire. So how's everyone doing?
Well, I'm an extroverted introvert. That's what I call myself.
Okay.
So I was okay. But my youngest son is graduating this year. So for me, it's just been as a parent. Well, I was already homeschooling my daughter. So that wasn't
Okay.
anything new. It was just seeing my youngest son is the one that doesn't talk that much.
Hmm.
And so he's the one that we've been the most concerned about because he's just really quiet. He likes to stick to himself. He's really an introvert, but I feel like because of what's going on with his senior year and everything else that's been going on, he's just been more of an introvert than usual. So I know she's gone now. But that's what I've been
Shoot.
going through. What about everybody else? You guys talk, please. Not me.
Tatiana, you gotta unmute yourself.
Oh, look, I'm talking to myself because I'm
Mhm.
muted. I mean, I'm doing cool. Really, it's the kids. I think that's the biggest thing is the kids because
Mhm.
I'm grown. This stuff isn't really surprising to me, being the climate that we've been in for so long. It's more so having like an 8-year-old son to explain this to, or like an 11-year-old daughter who have their own views,
Mhm.
and not knowing how exactly to tackle it in a way that doesn't hurt them more than help, not say the wrong thing that might make them feel worse or even more scared or more isolated, just trying to explain it to them and keep it real, you know what I mean? So finding a balance between giving them the details and keeping some stuff to myself and addressing their fears, and making sure I'm doing it right. Like that's been the biggest thing.
Yeah. It's this is a weird time to be a parent.
Yeah.
It's that's the only way that I can express it as a parent. It's just weird right now. Especially like I said with my son graduating and everything about his senior year has been not good.
Poor
So
baby.
yeah, so it's just a weird time just trying to keep your kids' spirits up, especially the seniors. But I mean they've been we've been doing creative things to keep everyone's spirits up, but I don't know. It's just been weird as a parent.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can do. We're literally stuck on top of each other right now. You know what I mean? And it went from being the pandemic to now this, and it's like we're just kind of enclosed, and there's really nothing to do except for, like you said, just find activities to do with them and things to keep them occupied. But there's really only so much you can do.
Yeah, especially when you have people's kids, schools trying to figure out creative ways to have graduations, and then all the protests are going on at the same time. And it's just like, at first, you couldn't go to school, then you couldn't go to prom, and then guess what? There's protests during your graduation week. So we're trying to be
Yeah.
safe and, gather together or find it's just a lot. So I said it's just a weird time to be a parent, but it's also a creative time. And out of difficulties is where new ideas are birthed. So that's really how we've been looking at it with our family, is just trying to figure out new ideas and new creative ways to do things. You know, my kids aren't 8, you know, my kids are big now, but still
Yeah.
got to be creative, because I think the older you get, the more you worry about stuff than you do as a kid. So that's the other weird thing for me being a parent, is that my kids are at their age where, like you said, you can't just send them to the room and give them Cheerios and say, go in your room and play with some Play-Dohs. Like, I actually have
Yeah.
many adults, so they are thinking about the same things that we're thinking about, because they're not little kids anymore. So I think for us, it's been the difficult thing for us, because they're thinking about all this stuff like we are, because they can drive and things can happen to them, because they're going out into the world with their friends or alone. And it's just, you just kind of feel helpless as a parent when you have kids of that age that can go places by themselves, because you don't always want to have that conversation. Make sure you're doing this to stay alive. Make sure you're doing that to stay alive. Make sure your
Right.
friends aren't. So that's why I said it's just a lot
Yeah.
of stuff to think about as a parent.
And I
So
think that brings a whole nother level to it, because then you have to worry about finding balance for yourself in order to be able to continue, like with everything going on, to be able to have the headspace to be like, okay, let's talk about this, or okay, let's sit down and, discuss what we're feeling. Because sometimes, even though we're adults, we're still like overwhelmed kids sometimes, it's a lot to deal with. So it's hard to continually be able to give them, to sustainably give them what they need during this time, and make sure you're not depleting yourself in the meantime.
absolutely,
It's a hard balance.
absolutely, because you don't want them to think you don't care. That's why I made that statement earlier. All of our kids go to counseling except for one, and you still want to be involved. You still want to show them that you care and you're concerned, and that you want to hear about their feelings, and their feelings and thoughts are valid and not always something that they have to talk to their therapist about. So, but also maintaining your own mental health and taking time for yourself without feeling guilty as a parent. So yeah.
So to catch you up, Robin, the ladies were sitting there talking about the fact that they're trying to balance out the best way to take care of the children and to take care of themselves without having their cup just overloaded.
Yeah.
I think you're muted again.
No, it's not. I think it's her connection, because her little dots are up there.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. She's gonna throw her computer if we're not careful. We can't hear you, but we can see you nodding.
We see your mouth moving and you're smiling and your head's nodding.
We know.
You look like you care.
That's
all
okay.
that matters.
Take your time. You can join through your phone. You can get it on your phone and go to Google Meet through your phone.
Give me just another minute.
Oh,
There,
we can hear you.
You're back. You're back now.
Now I'm back.
Yes.
I had to download the app and everything. But I'm about to go on the phone, because it doesn't seem to be the internet. It's
There you go.
okay. I'm about to close.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
All righty. So I don't know. It's like the program wouldn't work on my computer or something. The internet was fine, but anyway, I was hearing everyone, as I kept jumping back on and freezing. But it is a very difficult time, and trying to create some sense of normalcy for our children in the midst of chaos is what is important. So even though your son doesn't have his normal walk, creating something for him so that he can remember this time and not feel like he got overshadowed by Corona pandemic riots. So I'm not sure what you're going to do, if you're doing a parade or something.
His school's doing a parade, and then we're planning a Zoom party for the rest of the family that doesn't live here because, normally everyone would fly in. But yeah, we have some stuff planned. Excuse me. I know for prom, he and his friends had a virtual prom. They did it. Oh, I don't know, it was some video game that he has, and he was able to design his own club,
wow.
and then he charged all his friends a fee to get in, and then they were using the money for something. It was really cool. Like, he had his room
Okay.
decorated. So I have pretty creative kids. So
Good.
I'm not really worried about that part of it, but we just noticed that for him, he wasn't talking as much as he's a real introvert himself, but he just wasn't talking about a lot of stuff like he normally does.
Yeah.
So that's why we were concerned and just wondering, like, as parents, should we be more proactive in making him talk to us about stuff? Or should we just wait for him to come talk to us? And we just didn't want him to feel like we were allowing him to deal with his thoughts and emotions by himself. So
Right.
he's been really creative with his friends. He just hasn't been as vocal with us as he normally is. So that was pretty much
And
it.
our kids are pretty resilient in that they have a grasp that there's nothing that can be done to change it. So some of them might feel like talking, what's the point of talking about it? But the way I engage my kids is I might show them a crazy meme or story I just saw or something, and they'll get to start telling me everything they saw and what they feeling. So I don't always just sit them down like, tell me how you feel, because if I do that, they're going to be like, stop being a therapist, mom. But if I just talk to them about, like, did you see that, the mayor of DC just painted Black Lives Matter right down the street to the White House, then they'll start talking about stuff they saw, and it was through my kids I found out they said TikTok is very racist right now.
Yes, it's been racist.
That's what they were telling me. I'm like, oh, I didn't know. They was like, yeah, it's not really a cool platform. So they tell me stuff and I let them inform me. That way they don't feel like I'm, therapizing them. So, yeah. But just, giving them some sense of normalcy, but allowing them to feel what they feel. We all are feeling something right now, and we have to be realistic about allowing ourselves to feel. When we try to make everything better, that's not always good. We are in some crazy times. It's stressful, and we need to talk about the negative feelings along with the other feelings we might be having.
True.
So,
So
Anybody else want to join in? I see you guys down there. You want to join in? Ask a question?
I heard Cream for a minute, so I was waiting to see what she was about to say.
I don't want to be the only. I mean, I'll help keep the conversation going for Christy. I was just gonna ask. I did make a post about sharing videos over and over and over again, and I said that I think that the constant sharing of those types of videos is starting to make seeing Black men and women being killed normal. And the more we share it, the less likely people are going to care, unless something like what happened to George Floyd, where it had to get extremely graphic, where they literally had to see his last breath being taken and his body in extremity, just all that stuff. I didn't watch, but I read the comments about it. But if you are able to, just from you being a therapist, from a therapist point of view, like how continuing to see those images can affect people and their mental health. Just year after year, day after day, we're constantly seeing these images. Like, how does that affect us as people and us as a community and just the world in general?
I think that it can definitely cause trauma. I think it's a both answer to it. From a political point of view, the certain things would have never happened had the videos not been shown. Arbery, they would have never arrested those men had we not keep sharing. And I remember I had this discussion on someone's page when the Arbery thing happened. They said, quit resharing our trauma, which I understand totally. But from a political standpoint, it's the only way to get the news out there and to get people to understand how severe the situation is. You have to take a personal inventory on whether or not you can look at that stuff. You chose not to watch the video. I did watch the video. That one didn't strike me as bad as Philando Castile's. I still can't get the images from Philando out of my head. But unfortunately, without the videos, nothing would have happened. So yeah, it can definitely create images in your mind, especially if you've already experienced a trauma. To be re-traumatized by seeing acts of violence, um, it's very scary. It can be very hurtful. So um, you don't have to look at the video. It's a personal choice. You do not have to look. One thing that I called my mom earlier this week because I was supposed to take her to the doctor. She started all agitated, like, can we just go next week? Or, with all this going on, I couldn't understand the agitation in her voice. And I'm like, well, my mom, she's always moody. I'm thinking, oh, Lord, here she is in another mood or something. But then I was explaining to her, then we just started talking about the National Guard all over the streets. And she was little when the Huff riots happened. And she said, yeah, it just reminds me when I was a little girl and those tanks was rolling up and down the streets. Didn't dawn on me until that moment. My mom is re-experiencing trauma. So it doesn't even have to be the video. This whole situation is a trigger for a lot of people. There are a lot of people who've been abused by the police who are probably like, yes, show the video because they want to be vindicated through something. But yeah, trauma can happen. It can be the smell of the gunfire. It can be the smell of the pepper gas. Any of that stuff can re-traumatize a person. So we have to be aware of our own triggers, what triggers us and our trauma, from our trauma experiences, and manage ourselves from there.
Okay.
So just on a personal note, this is something I actually discovered working with Robin. I used to watch movies, and I'm big into marketing and things, and it will provoke a certain feeling, like anxiety. So I was watching a movie that just had music that was queuing up for a scary scene. I wasn't scared of the scene, but I noticed the music instantly caused my heart rate to increase. So I'm not gonna lie, last night I was watching Dexter and I'm sitting here and there's certain music just come on and I'm like, you know what? Skip 20 seconds. I don't even want to hear the music. Stab her already. I don't have time. Like, I just don't have time.
Oh my
I
God.
already know it's coming, but the music is just making it worse. Like, the anxiety just of expecting something can be one of the worst things ever. And one of my actual diagnosis, which actually directly came from Robin, is PTSD. That's part of the reason why I did this, is because my history is full of trauma. I actually saw my mom get her throat slit with a box cut. Those kind of things, they stick with you. And like, just arguing around me automatically puts me on edge. I met Cream working in the club, and she was real nice when she said gung ho earlier.
I was.
What she meant was, I used to come to the club with a gun because I wasn't having it. You weren't gonna bully me. Of course, I never pulled it out, not once, because nobody ever put me to the point where I was in fear of my life, and I wasn't irresponsible. But security knew I had it. Security knew I also had my equipment on me and everything, and they knew the situation. So those are the kind of things. But to give that context, I was robbed in my house once. I was robbed walking down the street once, both at gunpoint, leaving me worried about my safety in so many different manners. Watching my mom be attacked. My mom was actually attacked right around the corner from where I'm living currently, and she was kidnapped and held and sexually assaulted for 3 days and then dumped off to be left for dead, which she did survive for quite some time after that. But that triggered her into her heroin addiction. She couldn't get over it. She couldn't let it go. So imagine all the trauma that comes with living with an active addict for 20 years. So trauma is just something we really all have to start looking at, like, deep down in ourselves, the things that we hold on to and how to heal them. And this has brought up a lot for me personally, especially with the police and thinking about how many times they kicked our door and looking for my mom. Like, Too many times. They would come 8, 10, 12 of them just because my mom wasn't going to go peacefully ever. She wasn't peaceful. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie. I'm a marriage and family therapist here in the city of Cleveland. I'm new to the state of Ohio. This week came back about 2 years ago. But I just wanted to lend something to the conversation, and thank you all for sharing and Robin and sharing. But I heard a good lay definition of trauma, and I just wanted to kind of interject it right here. That trauma is a repeat of negative experiences that change the way we see ourselves, the way we see the world, and the way we see God or higher power or people of authority. And so when you hear it from that standpoint, and then you know our history as people of color, just from slavery in itself, we have a whole different lens that we view this life through, this world through. But we're always in trauma. We've come onto the planet, at least since slavery, from a place of trauma and being our selfhood is being stripped away, and we are, all of us are acting from a place of trauma, because it absolutely has changed the way we see ourselves, the way we were intended to see ourselves from the beginning of our birth is not the way we see ourselves right now. That's why therapy is so vital and so important, because it helps us to change a narrative that we've adopted from our experiences. And that's one of the beauties of therapy, is helping to redefine the narrative and to create a narrative that is closer to your more authentic self, and then the view of how we see the world. One of the things I shared on my talk yesterday is that if I get in a car and drive down the highway, or my sons get in a car and drive down the highway, and a police comes back past them, and we're all doing 65 miles an hour, I'm still clutching my steering wheel and looking out my rear view mirror. But my Caucasian counterparts, they don't have that experience. It's just not an experience. So their view of the world is very different than someone who has experienced trauma, a repeated trauma over and over again. And then even how we see religion or our gods, they have a God that is relational. We have a God that is punitive. So trauma impacts us on such an amazing level, that we are in a great time in our history for people of color, for us to tap into that and be able to recognize what the real, if you want to have an enemy, the enemy is the trauma. And that what happens, as Robin talked about, are the triggers. We don't even understand how many triggers we get, but there are triggers. And then we wear these masks that take away our smiles. And it's the thing that connected us. It's the thing that connected us in slavery. To be able to look in each other's eyes and look at in each other's faces. That's how we communicated, because everything else was taken away from us, trauma. So it's a big subject, and I really see a movement for us, for people of color, for us to become healed and understand that our reactivities to things are not because of the person that has done something to us. That's what we've been programmed to believe. It's really from our own inner pain and our inner wound. And so I just wanted to share that, because I thought that this definition was so simplistic, but it's right on.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And to
Thank you.
get back on that, with the cultural trauma, the generational trauma, what they're finding is that it's etched in our DNA. So, which is what makes us prone to diseases like heart disease and hypertension and diabetes. They're finding the linkages from genetically from the trauma of the generations in the past. This is why you find that so many people have things like fibromyalgia and these autoimmune disorders, because of so much trauma. So you not only do you have your generational trauma or your cultural trauma, but you then have your own personal traumas on top of it. And all of this is attacking the body. The mind, body, and soul are all connected. And so when we are dealing with these type of issues, you're finding people getting sick. I know I've been sick off and on pretty much this whole quarantine because of the stress of it all. Because this mental stress causes a physical stress as well as the spiritual stress. So we have to look at taking care of ourselves in a holistic manner. Take care of yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Absolutely. I was one of those people who always used to go, 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 go. That was the cream that I was talking about earlier. I never stopped. Like, you could 3 events in one night with my camera in my hand. Then I would go home, be editing pictures and posting videos, go to sleep maybe for a couple hours, but I was right back up because I had to get to the money. I had to stay busy, but I also was my grandmother's legal guardian, so I had to get her to her doctor's appointment. My mom was an addict, so I always had to worry about her. Was she alive? Was she stealing something? What was she doing? So it was just constantly go, go, go. So finally, you know, um, Robin, Tatiana is Tatiana. That is Tatiana from our therapy sessions. And when I got with Tatiana, I unloaded a lot of my negativity onto her. And it was terrible. Like, I just started falling apart because she came in January 2011. My grandmother got diagnosed with cancer February 2011 and died March of 2011. And
Mhm.
so, literally, our first 60 days together, it was just like the downfall of my life. And it didn't stop because my mom was actively using through this whole time. And I was going through all these different things, realizing like, I'm just not in control of me. I'm not in control of my life. And it just, so recently I realized without focusing on my mental health, I couldn't focus on my physical health. So post my grandmother passing, I was maybe 240, 260. When my grandmother passed, I shot up to roughly, I want to say almost near like 400 pounds. Now,
Mhm.
I've lost a lot of weight since then, but it's still a battle because my mom died in 2017 and I noticed it went right back up because I quit working in a cubicle, but I went and worked in somebody's phone store and was just sitting all day. I didn't have to go be physical. I didn't have to do anything. And I used to be the type who would do construction work. I would paint. I would be out there actually living my life. But I found every way I could to seclude. I'm also a Pisces, so I'm just a
Mhm.
loner in the first place. But I found every way I could to seclude in my relationship, my personal life with my friends. Like, literally, if we weren't going to smoke a blunt together or get some money, I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I just really was focused on like falling into this dark pit of not understanding who I was as a person and what caused it.
But see, that's what, okay, there's certain symptoms of PTSD, right? And one of them is avoidance. So you're working hard and going after the bag and doing this and doing that because life was your entire life was a trigger. Home was a trigger. Family was everything was a trigger. So as long as you were working and making money or smoking weed, you were avoiding dealing with whatever. And so when all that stuff came to a halt or you hit a wall or something, you could no longer do because it
Well,
was
hell, let's know this for next session. Let's know
okay.
this. I'm probably still doing some avoidance, y'all. Shit.
You know what?
I can admit it though.
I know that the quarantine has been a trigger for some people. And like Robin was saying, for people that are extroverts, like they're having a really hard time. Honestly, I needed the quarantine to happen because Christy has known me. Like I said, I started my company 15 years ago, and I think Christy met me maybe I was 1 year into being a business owner.
2008.
Okay, yeah, I started
2008
2000.
we met.
Yeah,
Yep.
2008. So I started my business in 2004, but I have I was the kid. I tell everyone, I think my mother birthed me and I came out with a planner and said, okay, so my first feeding starts on what time? Okay, and then the second one's going to be what time? And then I'm going to nap when? Like I'm that, I'm that person. And, Tatiana's been around me. Christy knows me. I'm that person. Like, I think that I was born with the planner in my hand. I've always been that kid who had 5,000 extracurricular activities. I went to performing arts school. I was in all honors classes. Like, I don't ever remember not having something to do. Um, I literally planned out my life. I became a mom at a young age and I got married at a young age because I already knew what I wanted to do when I got to like real adult age. And I knew I wanted to be a mom. So I'm like, well, let's just let me just have my kids young and let me get married young, because once I get to this age, I want to be doing this. So I literally have been planning everything my entire life. I've been on go my entire life. And some of those events where Christy's talking about, oh, we're going to do 3 events today and then go to sleep. We're going to get home at 5 in the morning and we have to be back at this event at noon. Like, that was me too.
Yeah, you
But
were there with a lot of those events I was at.
exactly. So for me, the quarantine came at an amazing time for me, because honestly, I don't think that I would have taken this much time to myself and away from everything if it weren't for this quarantine. So I will say for me, it's kind of been, not kind of, it has been a blessing for my mental health and for my physical health, because I am someone that has an autoimmune disease, but a lot of people don't know that. I don't like to talk about it. But anyway, the quarantine has been amazing for me in that aspect, because it's made me sit down, it's made me be still, and it's made me not feel guilty about being self-full and doing things for myself and resting and just finding different things to just do me. So in that aspect, I'm kind of happy that the quarantine came, because I know what I would be doing right now, and I probably would have told Christy, I don't even know if I have time to come do this, but yeah.
If it wasn't for the quarantine, I wouldn't have did this. That's what quarantine brought forth, was the
Yeah.
ability for me to take the time to heal and create the platform. Because while the quarantine's down, I built the website, I designed the logo, I set up the brand board, I wrote these press releases. You know, I don't have a team, I am the team. And that's what quarantine allowed me to do, was to build this opportunity, create some kind of safe space for everybody to come together. But go ahead, Robin. I saw you wanted to say something.
I was just going to say that you have to be in a mental space to understand that rest is okay. When you have been trained to think, to believe that if you're not working from sun up to sundown, you're being lazy. So then, if you had that mentality, then the quarantine hit. Now you feel like I'm not doing nothing, I'm not productive. But if you have the mindset, or you have the understanding of being self-full instead of selfish, then you are able to take that break and say, I needed this downtime. And Christy, you know, I had a radio station up until November. I had already heard from God to take a break.
Yeah.
So when quarantine hit, I was already in rest mode. Had I not been, I would have probably lost my mind. Like, oh no, everything's crumbling down around me. But God had already put me in that place. And so I was able to receive the rest that was, and not feel guilty, because I was already becoming, well, not idle, but I was still. But that success mantra of, you know, rest when you're dead type of thing would have probably
Right.
started getting to me, and I would have started working harder or something. But no, God had me in that place of rest. And I think if you are able to rest and not stress about the finances and not stress, enjoy this time, because it's only a season. We're gonna be back up and running again soon. So enjoy this time.
And that's the mind frame that I gave myself, which is why I said it's okay to be self-full right now, because like I said, you've been on go since you were born. And don't make yourself feel bad about just making your schedule. Like, if you don't want to do anything today, do nothing. And that's what I had to tell myself. If your body, your mind, and your soul and your spirit is telling you that you don't feel like being creative today, then don't be. Whatever your mind, body, and soul is telling you to do right now, just do it, because this is going to be over at some point. You're going to be back. And if you don't utilize this time to be self-full and be mentally prepared for everything to start going the way it was before, then you don't know where your mental state might be when everything starts piling back up on you. So just take this time to just rest. Like, I really needed to rest. My body was like, please rest. My mind was like, please rest. And that's what I've been doing. Any other time I would have felt guilty, but
Yeah.
I've been resting. I've been busy, but it's there's no it doesn't compare to my old busy. So I like this. I'm happy about this. This has
Right,
been good
because it
for
was
me.
like a recharge, you know.
Hmm.
I'm I like to be in the house. I like to stay away from all the people and all their extra energies. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm ready to go outside now.
I'm ready to go outside and be around the people that share the same vibes.
Yes,
See,
good,
that's why I
Same.
was
good,
gonna say
good
that.
vibes
Yeah,
only.
the quarantine for me also has given me a reason to not have to be around people and the vibes that I don't want to be around. And
Yeah.
now that everyone is used to not being around each other, now I can be pickier than I was before. It's like now, if I know that your vibes don't match my vibes, I can just blame it on Corona and just say, yeah,
Right. You don't
we
have to
can,
feel
we
guilty.
don't really have to do this. And I can choose to be around, my tribe of people with good vibes because I'm really big on positive energy and just being around people that make you feel good and people that can receive your good vibes because sometimes you can bring all the good vibes and the good energy, but if someone isn't open to receiving that, they're not going to receive it. And no, it doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah.
And I had to learn, that's something that I had to learn too. Um, but I've been very grateful and appreciative of having this time away from everyone. I know it's been hard financially for a lot of people, and for me, I think that it's something that has also helped me to not always have my mind on getting to the bag because like I said, I've been self-employed for a really long time, and that is something that's always on your mind when you make your own check,
Yeah.
and it's
Mhm.
you got to live, but I think this is the first time I haven't really stressed myself out about getting to the bag, and I am paying all my bills. So,
I think that just sidebar on that whole entrepreneur thing. I think that was the thing that separated us during this quarantine. Those who were dependent on that paycheck and it got taken from them versus us who we make our own money anyway. So
this is
we just
regular life.
right, we just keep on making that money.
Yeah.
We didn't starve. We didn't want for anything because this was our normal life.
Mm-mm. It's just our regular life, minus having to see people as often as we used to see them in
Right.
person. I've been okay
Mhm.
with video chats and phone calls. I've cool.
Yep, telehealth. This is exactly how we do my therapy session every week,
Yeah, this is how
and
my
we're not
kids' therapy
changing
sessions
that
are now
either.
too.
Yeah. Us therapists are not liking it either, though.
Yeah.
Telehealth is okay with certain people who are they're just, if they're open and willing to talk to the computer, but for some that it's become a fence, kind of. It hides their true emotions. I miss my office. I miss the vulnerability of my office. Um, and my eyes hurt staring at a screen all day. That I do not like.
You
Just,
got to get some of these. I'll send you some, or I'll
okay.
give them to Christy and tell her to give you some. They're
Okay.
blue blocker glass. That's why I have these on because I'm always on the screen, but they're
Oh,
blue blocker glasses. It blocks the blue light because I started realizing that my eyes were hurting
yeah.
during this quarantine, and
Hmm.
I googled it and I found out that it's the blue light from our phones, the TV, and our
Wow.
computer screens. So I ordered these, but I'll send you the
Okay.
information when we're done. So just get some of these. That's why I
Blue
have these
block.
on.
Okay. No, that'll help because I've had headache almost every day since quarantine.
That's what it is,
Same.
because that's what happened to me. I couldn't even watch because I watched my YouTube videos on our TV and I couldn't even watch YouTube or anything anymore. I couldn't really respond to text messages because my eyes were in pain and I realized that's what it was.
Yeah.
So I'll I don't want to
Okay. The
put anything.
information. Thank
Yeah.
But see, that's
So,
good to know. I thought it was stress. I'm like, gosh, I'm just stressed from doing these sessions, but it's really just like from the
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, that's what it is. Because now I feel I have it. I was getting like, I already have migraines, but I was getting them every day. And my eyes were hurting really bad. And I realized that it was the blue light. It said it emits blue light that we can't
Mhm.
see.
Okay.
And So you have to get the glasses and it blocks the blue light.
Okay.
So I haven't had a headache since I bought these.
All right,
So.
I'm on it. So other than that, well, going back to the stress stuff though, how do you I always say like life is like a railroad track, there's good and bad. We don't really have to create the bad in life. But the good rail of the railroad track, we have to make sure we're consciously putting good into our lives. So what are we doing during all of this upset? I mean, even in the midst of a revolution, you still at a party or something. Like, what are we doing to enjoy ourselves or improve our mood during all this time?
I didn't do it yesterday. I should have, but for some reason I didn't. But for the past 2 weeks, every Friday, I've been hosting a game night on live on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been doing like 90s trivia in the background. I've been playing like 90s old school, like 90s music. And everyone that has been joining me on Friday nights on live, they were sending me DMs and saying, thank you so much. We really needed this. You know, I was like, hey, everyone, get whatever your favorite drink is. I don't care if it's water, just join me on live. Let's just have fun and answer some questions. So I did that and a lot of people enjoyed it. And then for myself, I honestly have really been getting back into just all the things like creative stuff. Just like I said, I'm a creative person. So all the creative things that I love doing that I never had time to do before, I've just been creating more. That's for me the best way to get my mind off stuff. So those are the two ways that I've been dealing with stress and getting away from all this stuff without feeling guilty.
Right. I'm with Cream. I've been doing lots of creative stuff. I bust out the watercolors and the Moleskine journals and the pastels for sure, doing creative stuff. Working with Chris on building a website. Definitely trying to lose the guilt though, like Cream said. A lot of times you have like that list running in your head of, okay, I have to do this and this and this. And if I do this now, I could avoid doing it tomorrow and have more time for this. And so like in your head, you're constantly aware of what you should be doing and what you could be doing. So to carve out a full hour of time and dedicate it to doing something that isn't actually, it's not actually, you know, giving to the kids or helping with making a meal or cleaning the house, it kind of feels hard to allocate that time for yourself without feeling guilty. Like doing this means that I have to choose between playing a game with the kids for an hour, you know, for the third time in a row, like they're begging me to do because they're bored, or am I going to say, leave me alone, sit outside and draw my journal for an hour so that I personally feel like my cup has been filled, you know what I mean? And for a long time, I felt guilty taking that time because, you know, I'm like, oh, I got to give it to my kids, or I should be doing this, or I could use my time better doing this. So quarantine with all this extra time, I've been like, well, dang, I might as well invest some of it into myself because I'm stuck all day with myself. So it's definitely encouraged me to kind of, it's definitely encouraged me to take care of myself a little bit more and allocate time for me, which has definitely been helpful after spending all day and night with 3 kids.
Wow.
Something I can say too that I have done, and I will say that it's something that I wanted to do before, kind of like what Robin was saying. In November, she was already starting to slow down. So for me, and again, like Christy's known me for a long time, I've always been that person that's been there for everyone else. Like I'm the person that everyone calls if they want to. I'm just there for everyone. I've had a roster of like 10, 12, 8 different clients at the same time. And I'm just giving in, pouring into everyone, making sure everyone's stuff is okay, being on call for everyone. And honestly, I had already started doing this and then that's why I said going to the quarantine didn't really bother me. I was tired of pouring into everyone else and not having it being reciprocated towards me. So I really and truly stopped accepting new clients. I stopped working with new people. And that's where, I said getting back to just being creative and just doing things for myself and being more self-full. So I will say that is something that I've been really proud of myself is my bills are still being paid without having to over inundate myself with a bunch of clients and people that need me to help them, and me not feeling fulfilled because I'm always helping someone. But I've always been that person that liked to help people. And I always thought that that was my way of giving back, was to always help someone. But then I realized that I can't help anyone if I'm not okay, and if I'm tired, and if I don't feel so fulfilled. So that's something that I stopped doing. I haven't accepted any new clients. I don't want any new clients. I don't really want to help anybody right now build anything. I just want to.
But you might be in a transition, but you know, so there's a reason why there's this clearing of stuff off your desk, because you might be about to transition to some new type of creative work. But there's also this saying that says you can't pour from an empty cup. You do have to allow yourself to be refilled before you can help others. And then Yana Van Zant, though I'm not the biggest fan of hers, but she did say, and I liked it, was that you should give from your overflow. So not just pouring yourself out empty. Your cup should be overflowing, and that's where you should give from, is from that overflow. So I am a strong friend. I'm the parental sibling. I'm that person that was always fixing everybody's stuff. And I shut that down probably 10 years ago when I left my ex-husband. So I've been probably my borders, my boundaries probably been very rigid, because I'm just like, no one's about to take advantage of my time now. But I'm very conscious of who I give to, how much I give, and knowing that helping sometimes is linking them to the other people that can help them. That is how I can help. I don't have to do it myself.
Yeah, that was the best thing for me. The first time I told someone no, I don't think you guys understand how exhilarating that was for me. The first time I said no, I was like, no, I don't want to do it. And they were like, what? Because everyone's used to me saying, okay. I said no. And then that was that. And I felt great. And I went on with the rest of my day and nothing happened. So learning to say no when it's appropriate has been the most exhilarating thing for me. And this is something that because I used to manage artists, and I stopped managing artists like 7 years ago. And you're right, as far as the transition, because I already know that there's a transition happening for me. And I've already noticed that over the past couple of years. But the quarantine is what really let me know that the what I'm transitioning to is something that can work, because this is the first time, like I said, I actually was able to be still and actually focus on that transition and realize that I didn't have to do all of these other things for the transition to work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I appreciate this. Like I said, this is one of the things that I agreed to do for Christy, because I really care about her, and I'm really happy to see her growth and where she is now. And this is one of the things that I would want to say yes to being a part of, because it's important, and I like being a part of things like this. And I don't feel like this is something that is taking away from my time. This is actually adding to the fulfillment of my time. So, yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everybody's time. I really do.
Thanks for asking me. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else got anything to say? I see we got some muted mics down there, so people unmute the mics and chime in. Our time's coming up to a wrap. We got about 20 minutes left. So if you got any questions you want to directly ask Robin and get some advice on before we get out of here, better take advantage of her time.
I have a question for Robin. With earlier we were talking about trauma, and how a lot of these videos and bringing up the same things daily, sometimes when you log onto Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, it's literally nothing but an entire 7 scrolls of videos or messages that are just hurtful and infuriating, and they just kind of feel that fire. So what can we do to take steps to counteract that when we get on and we notice that, what can we do to kind of recenter ourselves and make sure that we're not allowing that trauma to build up throughout the day and kind of lead us and our emotions?
It's kind of like what I tell people with the news. I'd say there's probably about 15 minutes of news, and the rest is just on repeat. And so I tell people, if you must watch the news, because I don't even watch the news, but if you must watch the news, only watch it for 15 minutes. You'll get everything you need to know, and then unplug, because they're going to heighten your anxiety with the constant replay of everything that's going on, and not realizing that you're just taking in a bunch of negativity constantly. Same thing with social media. Take a break. Play a game on your phone if you can't put the phone down. Uh, do a word search or something. But one of my main things has been for me personally is getting back into nature. Going and listen to some waterfall or creek, or listen to the lake or something. Just getting away from it all, because you can become very consumed by it, whether it's this drama or it's some other drama, or somebody fighting on their social media or something. It's always going to be some drama, always. So, we have to deal with our what do we call this? Our personal responsibility to disengage, because the rest of the world's not going to disengage. You have to take that personal responsibility. I'm not engaging in this today.
Right.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I can't remember the question I had. I mean, I went over it with her in therapy. That's probably why I forgot, because I already got an answer for it. But I figured it would help you guys. We were talking about, I remember talking about really just watching the images surround us from everywhere and realizing that we have to really just move forward. At a certain point, we can either just stay in it or we can just move beyond it.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of us that are here together right now, we understand where we're at. So now we have to figure out the next step on how to help move our community forward. That's really where we need to go from now. And I'm not sure what we're gonna do about a part two, but I think that's what we're gonna start talking about in our next one. Is how do we move forward from the trauma that we're experiencing? Because that's really where we're all at. We all know we have the trauma now. We all know that if we open social media or turn on the news or look at the newspaper that's sitting in the store on the counter, we're going to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do we do collectively to start moving this agenda forward and past just being stuck with some online petitions? You know, in a
I
couple
think
weeks, all these protests and marches are going to come to an end. So we really have to worry about what are we going to do next when this
Right.
big hype stops until somebody else unfortunately is gunned down and it's back as a media sensation. What are we going to do to keep it alive without having to see another black life lost, and to keep ourselves together without having to repeat the trauma in order to even get some progress? Like, what can we do for
I think
ourselves and for our community?
Can I
from
answer that question for people that aren't like us, that are able to be in quarantine? Because some people are essential workers and might rewatch this, or they never stop going to work. I know that I've seen a lot of people on social media say that they just feel very stressed about going back into the office and having to be that person that all the people that don't look like them are either staring at or asking questions, asking them how they feel. And I guess what Christy's saying, like moving forward, can you, in your answer or your reply, can you give something to those people too? Because I see a lot of people saying that they just don't feel comfortable going back to work and they're tired of having to be the black person, the go-to black person for all the white people at work. So
My roommate is
what are,
literally going through that right now.
yeah, so
Literally,
like,
he'll love this answer.
Mhm.
so what are some things that they can do for themselves and an answer besides get the hell out of my face? Because that's what I would probably say, but
I
we'll
would
let
have
the
to
profession.
I would have to think a little bit harder on that, because I've been self-employed for 10 years for this very reason. I don't want I, I
Because
got
you see,
tired of
my
being
answer is get the hell out of my face, but I work
right,
for
right.
myself, so I can tell people that.
Now I work I worked at Palmerdale. Remember when I worked at Palmerdale? They had just got rid of the old CEO because there was a murder on grounds. And so then there was this multicultural training headed up by this one department full of white therapists. I was the only Black therapist at Catholic Charities Palmerdale at the time. It was like maybe one or two in the community division, but I don't know those people. So I'm sitting next to the new head of Palmerdale. And I had just got this is too much information. I had just been under investigation because a kid went bananas in my office and I cussed at her. And then so I had to get investigated. So I was already like trying to be good. So I'm sitting there next to the new guy and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm going to be fired or something. I don't know. And they're doing this training and they're doing the training on different cultures and families and family structures. And when they get to the Black family, they say, well, Black families are just demeaning and they're belittling and they don't know how to talk to their children. And that was basically the gist of how to work with Black
What?
families. Yeah, it was crazy. So I'm sitting there trying to behave because I got the new CEO next to me. And after the end, he turns to me and says, what do you think about the training today? And I'm like, oh, I think it was okay. You know, my fake, yeah, it was great. Yeah. Well, what did you think about the Black family part? And I was like, oh, well, you know, I can understand where they're coming, trying to be passive. Because one, I'm already been under investigation for abuse and I didn't want to get any more trouble. So he goes, well, I think that it was terrible. What I didn't realize was that he was the former diversity and inclusion officer of Cleveland Clinic, and now he came to take over Catholic Charities Palmerdale. He said, I think it was very invalidating. It was demeaning. And he said, I grew up Italian and we yelled at kids all the time. He said, you know, I don't agree with it and I'm going to talk to him about it. Because then I was like, well, yeah, I did find it when they said blah, blah, blah. I was kind of taken aback that they would say that. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to talk to them. I am not happy. And in that moment, I realized that I do have a voice, regardless if they give it to me or not. He has no problem voicing what he wanted to feel, and he wanted to empower me to voice. And from that point on, no matter where I worked, I said what I needed to say. Now, I wasn't disrespectful, but I did say, this is offensive to me, and this is why. Or I'm not going to do this, and this is why. And been able to be an advocate for Black people. But I know that everyone's job isn't always as inviting with that. So it's a very hard thing on when do you bite your tongue and when do you go off? When do you check people and when you that's something everybody's going to take an individual, but understand that in this country you do have freedom of speech and you do have a freedom to have a comfortable work environment. I saw some people already say they've logged off of Zoom conference call meetings because people started going in about the riots already, not thinking of who else was on the phone. So this is definitely something that's probably going to take multiple ideas of how to address this as workers. Kudos to the people who have jobs who are culturally sensitive, but then there are others. So it's going to take a lot of conversation. One thing I want to talk about before we do run out of time is the grief process that we're not dealing with. So right now we're dealing with the hypervigilance and the avoidance of trauma, but there's actually a grief process that has to take place as well. And so when the energy and the steam runs out of this fight, or when the fight is over, then there's going to still be all these emotions. And why? Because we're grieving something. We're grieving what we saw. We're grieving all of our own experiences. And that has to be dealt with too. I've worked with several people who've had some traumatic things happen and they fighting the law, they're suing, and they have all the energy in the world until the lawsuit is over. And then the reality is that the person that you were fighting for is still gone. So we have to recognize that as a community, there is still going to be a grief process. We still have feelings that we have not addressed because we're just allowing the anger to go. Anger has its place, but after that's done, there's going to be the other emotions too. So we have to be aware of that. Going back to work, all those emotions, dealing with people, and they still, after all of this country being on fire, they still think the way they do. You know, so that's going to be the hard part.
It definitely is, with the fact that our president is really stirring the pot right now. It makes it hard for us to to get some unbiased media. It makes it hard for us to really speak up. See, I have to be careful what I say. I'm acting as a nonprofit right now, y'all, so I can't talk about politics or that can affect my things with the IRS. So if we want to talk about politics, meet me over at Hip Hop Digital and we'll go there. But, but right now, we really I have to watch it. But it's going to be hard conversations moving forward. And just know that we will do part two. We will be doing a part two. If Robin is available, hopefully she can join. If not, I will try to find us somebody else to host us and provide information. But definitely, like, we have to really focus on healing. And as Robin just said, the grieving process. I just went through one of the worst grieving processes, my mother. And that was literally a lot of anger, a lot of regret, a lot of frustration. And Sandra Bland, Tatiana can tell you, I lost weeks of sleep over Sandra Bland. I'm going to tell y'all right now. I wanted to go to Texas and get the cop myself. I really, like, it was an unhealthy process for me watching what happened to Sandra Bland and the other young lady. I believe her first name was Corey. I cannot remember her last name at the moment. But watching what happened to those young ladies, it made me lose a lot of sleep. A lot of sleep. And that's the grieving process she's talking about. Those are the things that sometimes we don't even realize we're going through, is when we repeatedly watch this stuff, we feel, oh, it's insomnia. No, it's not. It's deeper than that. And we got to really root of what's causing some of these things that we just push under the rug, because those are the things that build up to become triggers. And that's just speaking from experience.
Yeah. Well, if you guys want to speak on political things, you can always come over to 216 The Beat, because you know that's why I kept my media platform open. As a Black woman, as a woman, I felt that it was important to have a platform. And that's why our tagline is the voice of the voiceless, the heartbeat of the community, so that people have an outlet to talk about things that need to be talked about, because the regular media is very biased, and we need people that are on the ground, people that live the lives, that are around the people, to tell our stories. So you can always go over there. It's not
that's
nonprofit.
cool. I'm gonna
I
need
pay
a
for
show.
everything. I pay for everything. Look, I pay for the licensing. It's all under me, so we can do whatever we want to do.
I pay for all this too so far. They ain't cutting me no grants yet. But hold on. Be right. I'm coming.
But I just wanted to say thank you, Christy, for doing this. Again, like I said, I'm very proud of you and your growth. And Tatiana even being here and just being open to be a part of your growth. Because I know a lot of times when you experience trauma from other people, especially somebody you love, sometimes it's easier to just forget they exist. But just seeing her here and being a part of this, that's amazing to me. And Robin, thank you for taking time out of your day to just answer questions and give us your thoughts and ideas. So I appreciate that as well. So thank you guys. Thanks for inviting me too. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for inviting me. I like to talk, so it's like
Me too.
like this, I know this was called like public therapy session, but it really was just a conversation, and we need to have more of these. Isolation breeds some of the craziest thoughts. And so putting everyone into isolation for the quarantine was not good for a lot of people, because they're left alone with their thoughts, and their thoughts aren't being vocalized. So public conversations, public discourse is a very healthy thing. We need to do a lot more of it.
We will definitely do a lot more of these. I promise that we will make this something that happens fairly often, and we'll keep it going for the people, because that's the whole point. I really just want to save our families. I really, real quick, I keep her right here with me. I couldn't save my family. I couldn't save her. She couldn't save herself. So if we can catch the underlying issue, which is mental health, like for my mom, it was literally mental health. She was sexually assaulted starting at 3 years old by her own grandfather. When she told her mother Her mother didn't believe her, and then her uncles went on to do that. My grandmother's boyfriends did that. By the time my mom hit 15, probably 20 different men had taken a turn with my mom unwillingly. And it really just set a tone for her whole future. And even if it isn't sexual assault, it's verbal abuse, mental abuse, dealing with addiction, dealing with anything like that long term can really, really have a long term effect on you. So let's start talking about those conversations, those things. And somebody on here doesn't like to talk about their personal business really, and she knows exactly who she is, and she's smiling a little bit harder right now. She has some things to talk about, couple of them, and we're going to get that out of y'all. We're going to talk about these things because we're going to be the leaders for this generation. That there's nobody else doing this right now. I literally found the only niche, the only space where there's no leaders,
Mhm.
and here we are. So it's up to us. We all have histories, we all have stories, and we're going to go ahead and use them.
Absolutely.
It was an honor talking to you guys tonight. Chris, I love you to death. It's been wonderful to watch this unfold, and honestly, to watch you get to this point with your face on the camera, out here having this
Oh,
conversation. Like,
yes,
I'm
her
so,
face.
so proud. I mean, I'm so, so proud of you. I'm so happy that you
Y'all
followed
know I
through
want
with
to be an
this.
icon right now. Just push
I
the icon on.
know. I know, and it's really wonderful. Like Cream said, it's wonderful to see your growth. I know it took a lot to get here, and I know you've poured a lot into this, and I know that it's been a long, long process, and I'm so glad to see this right here happening. I know it's not the end; it's just the beginning, and I appreciate being a part of this.
Yeah, thank you. So if anybody has any ending comments, please go ahead. I'm done. All right. So thank you, ladies, very much. I appreciate everybody's time. For the ladies who haven't really spoke much, please join us. I would like for y'all to send me a message. Let's connect, see how we can get together. I believe her name was Stephanie. Stephanie, I would love for you to reach out to me. My email is actually info@saveour.family. If you need to hit me up directly on IG at Save Our Families. I would love to work with you, have you come in and possibly host one of these as well. You know, let's make all the opportunities. So again, thank
Oh,
you, ladies, and
wait, as you said, was her name Stephanie, the other therapist who's new to Ohio? We have a network of Black therapists. Reach out
Her
to me.
she just
camera,
dropped
her
out. She
camera just
left.
dropped off.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Okay, well,
figure out.
let her know that we have a network of Black therapists, and we keep our referrals within us and all of that stuff. So she needs to become a part of us.
Yes,
That's
we're
what's
gonna
up.
find her and we're gonna get her. So don't worry, that's gonna be one of my goals is to track her down and get in contact with them. So I will start planning something else. I'll reach out to everybody. If you guys would like to be a part of it, we'll definitely get something together and do a part two. Any recommendations on the topic? I know this time we were focused on trauma and what's currently going on, but I would love to speak on all the other things that impact families and lives.
Hmm.
Awesome.